Hi, I want to start out with this is for May 25th. We're going to be going over supply, demand, and some ocean resources. Um, I do want to point out that there's one-on-one sessions available. You can go to the announcements in the classroom and or in the OLS and find it in there, the actual sign up link. You'll go up to Sign Up Genius. You'll see all the available slots through the rest of the trimester, and you will be able to sign up there. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to go to GoFormative, and I want you to open up your guided notes for May 25th. It's supply and demand and ocean resources. I can't really post the link here, otherwise I would. So our learning targets for today, the ones that we're really going to focus on are determining the pros and cons of extracting Earth's mineral resources. And we're going to talk about how supply and demand affects resources that are available. We're going to go into marine resources and fish stocks on May 27th. Okay, so let's talk about what drives the economy. Okay, so the question is, what stores do most people shop for an item at a good price? Well, sit and think about it. What stores would your parents go to, or would you go to get something at a really good price because it's cheaper? Okay, stores that come to my mind are Walmart, Dollar Store, Five Below, Target, Big Lots, Grocery Outlet, those types of places. Okay, so let's kind of focus on Walmart. Why would we go there? Think about where most of the items at Walmart are made at. So think of where those items are made at. So I can tell you that most of them, okay, most of them are made in, oops, well, that doesn't really work. So most of them are made in China. A lot of them are made in China, India, Pakistan, Vietnam. Wow. Cambodia, Philippines. AINS, right? Probably spelled that wrong, which I did. There we go. So the Philippines, Venezuela. So you're going to find, I'd say probably over 75% are just made in China. So we're going to talk about why these countries are producing cheaper items. So I want you to kind of think about that. Why are these countries able to produce items that are less expensive? So let's think about these types of countries. I know you may think China's this world leader, which they are, but they're not considered a first world country yet. Parts of it are, but many parts of it are not. But the rest of them, they're all considered kind of a third world country almost. They're emerging. Okay, so they're emerging in the economy, which means that they've started their industrial revolution. China's pretty close to the end of it, but a lot of these other countries are just starting to produce items at mass quantities, which means that they are able to keep the kind of the cost down at this point. So let's talk about why these costs are able to stay down. One is they have cheap labor. So the labor market for them is a lot cheaper. And that's because they have a high population of people, most of them. China has I want to say 1.7 billion people in the in their country. India has 1.2 billion people. So these countries have a lot of people in them. Well, the other thing about all these people that are in the country, most of them do not have a high education. So let's kind of look at it if we were in this country. There is lots of jobs open for people that like fast food restaurants. And they can fill those positions at a lower cost because there are so many people that are qualified to do those jobs. But if we go into like a coding position, there's not that many people that can actually do that job. So because there isn't as many people that can do that job, it gets a lot higher wages. So if we go back to those countries, they have positions in factories. Well, you don't have to have a high education to put something together or that kind of stuff. You need a higher education to be the one that's designing the items or that kind of workforce. So those two things say that the supply and demand, there's a huge supply of workers and there's a good demand of workers, but because the supply is so much higher than what is available, they can pay people a lot less. Also, they don't pay benefits, so no medical, no retirement, none of those types of options. So, like in my husband's company, just the medical alone that they pay, that the part that I don't pay, ends up being about $800 a month. So, a big, big difference. Um, import taxes are not as high. Okay, so they may be able to import things into their country to process it at a lower amount because they control the tariffs, what costs. Um, they also have lower standards. Okay, how many people have gotten a product and had it break pretty quickly? So products are mass produced at a lower standard, um, and there's less regulations on pollution. So these companies can go out and pollute the air. If you look at China, they have 5 of the top polluted cities in the world. India has um, India has 2 or 3 of them. So those 2 countries alone have high pollution standards. Um, they pretty much don't have any regulations on pollution. So if you're having to process things um, and you want to process them cheaper, you don't have the EPA or the Environmental Protection Agency like in the United States, they can produce things a lot cheaper. Lower taxes. So the government may lower the taxes for these companies to bring them in. Government subsidies, which is kind of almost the same thing, except for the government funds these businesses. Uh, so if you know anything about airplanes, Boeing versus Airbus, Airbus is a French company, and the French actually subsidize Airbus so they can keep their prices down to meet Boeing's prices. And energy expenses are low. Okay, they may have get very low rates on electricity. Okay, why do we purchase resources from other countries? Okay, any resource, whether it's natural or already produced. Uh, One, they're cheaper. We're not going to purchase something from another country unless it is cheaper. Can't produce the same product for the same price. Okay, we can't produce the same product for the same price. Again, it's cheaper. Maybe there's something that makes it much more expensive to produce here. We don't have a supply of the resource. Maybe we don't even have it in the United States. Our oil reserves, we have some that we can produce into gas, but you have to have a high quality of oil, and most of that oil comes from the Middle East. So we have to purchase oil from the Middle East to make our gas to run cars on. So just because we have it doesn't mean that it's going to work for what we need it to work for. And maybe we want to keep the resources we have rather than selling them. So it's kind of called a rainy day fund. Okay, so we don't want to take our resources out. Maybe it's too expensive for us to take it out of the ground. Maybe we just don't have it. We can go to other countries that need the money and buy those resources from them at a cheaper price. And then we keep our resources. So when that other country runs out of that certain item, look, we still have ours. So now we can sell it to the other country for a higher amount than what we purchased it for. So that's the one thing about having a good economy, is that we can almost take advantage of other countries, and we're hoarding our supplies rather than sending those to other countries. And Japan is doing that right now. Um, they buy lumber from us. Is it Japan or is it China? It's one of the two. They buy trees from us, and what they do is they bury the trees in their country, which stops any erosion, or not erosion, breaking down of the trees. So when they bury them, and what they're doing is waiting for us to not have trees, and they're going to be able to sell them back to us, or they're going to have a huge amount of trees for lumber, and we're not going to have any. So it works both ways. I mean, so why would they want to cut down their forest when they can buy it from us for cheaper? And then later they're going to have their forest versus when we don't have ours, and they're going to be able to sell it back to us at a higher price. Okay, so let's talk about gold mining. Okay, gold is a mineral, a metal mineral, and we pull it out of the ground. It's a limited resource, so it's non-renewable because we are pulling it out of the ground. There's only so much of it. We can't just keep making more gold at this point. So let's talk about gold mining in the Yukon/Alaska. Okay, Yukon, this is the Yukon province in Canada. And then we have Alaska, so we have Fairbanks and Anchorage. There's a lot of gold mining over in there. We're going to focus on the Yukon for right now. Okay, let's talk about the Alaskan Gold Rush, or the Yukon Gold Rush. Okay, so Yukon's right on the border of Alaska, so we can kind of say it's kind of both. So gold was discovered in the Yukon in 1896. And in 1896 to about 1897, it brought about 100,000 people to the area. It was crazy how many people actually fought their way into the area. Now, you got to remember, back then, cars and that kind of stuff wasn't available. So a lot of them hiked in. It was crazy what you would see these people doing. Dawson City became the largest city in the Yukon. And like I said, it's right close to the border, so we call it Alaska too. The gold rush started in 1896 and it ended in 1903. So why do we think it ended? So there's several reasons why it ended, and we're going to talk about those reasons. So hold on just a moment. You'll be able to fill out your notes. So if we look, the gold rush, while they were doing it, they had primitive tools, okay? They had shovels, they had pickaxes, they had just regular panning equipment, nothing with too much technology. Here's a sluice box. So they literally had to find a way for water to run down it so they could um, siphon out the gold in it. We don't do it this way anymore. So let's look at the price of gold. Okay, in 1896, the price of gold was $18.96. In 1903, it was $18.95. So it actually went down a penny. And back then, a penny was a penny. I mean, it was a big deal. It wasn't just, a penny like to us, where a penny isn't going to get you anything. Back then, a penny would get you stuff. Um, so if we look at this chart, it talks about how much gold was being taken out of the Yukon. So if we look at it, in 1892, very, very little was being found there or produced. They call it production because they got it out. Okay. In 1896, it had barely gone up. So maybe 200 ounces had been removed in that year. And then we see it spike. 1897, we were at almost 2,000 ounces. 1898, let's see, 98, I can't remember, was probably about 2,500 ounces, and then it spiked from there. So in 1903, when the gold rush ended, they took about 12,000 ounces out. So why all of a sudden, where's this dramatic dip in the amount of gold removed? Well, the dramatic dip was because, well, we saw gold prices drop a little bit, but that's not really, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't, enough to make people, it's not like it dropped in half to make people go. But the easy gold was gone. Okay, they'd come in and taken out so much gold that the easy stuff was gone. So the stuff that sat at close to the surface, because you got to remember, they were hand digging everything. The stuff that was at close to the surface or within a digging distance was gone. And so the people that had these older tools couldn't get to it anymore. It wasn't easy. So a lot of people dropped out. Another reason was this big spike right here. Corporations came in and started building dredges. And these dredges were built and they were able to dig a little bit deeper than by hand, actually quite a bit deeper. And they were able to process a lot more at the same time. So most of this little dip right here was a lot of people left. But the corporations were still there. They built these dredges, they put them in. Well, they had dredged out what they could dredge out because dredges need to be near rivers. They need to be able to flood areas to be able to put them in. They're very, very interesting to learn about. Well, in 1903, they let the dredges just stop because there was no other place for them to go. So the dredges, you can still go up there and find dredges just sitting. From this time, they literally just abandoned them. And if you ever watch Gold Rush, Tony Bates goes in and buys some of these dredges and starts using them again. And he's making lots of gold out of these dredges. So they left them. So the corporations left, the people left, everybody left, and we have this huge decline in gold production again. The easy stuff was gone. It was harder to get. So by 1908, anybody that wasn't really, really serious at it had gone. So it only lasted really about 6 years, 7 years. Okay. So much of the gold is gone. So why do they continue to mine? Okay, there's some reasons. Um, Here's one of the main reasons. We'll come back to that slide. Okay. The price of gold. So in 1896, it was $18.98 per ounce. Let's look at 1972. It's $58.42 per ounce. And in 1974, it was $154 per ounce. So it went up almost $100 in 3 years. Now, the reason for this was inflation. At this point, we went into a serious recession. So everything that came out was inflated. It's kind of the same thing we're going through right now, where you're finding food prices are going up. Um, Mostly food prices are going up. Gas prices are going up. We've been seeing that. We're in a high amount of inflation. The housing prices are going up. Everything's going up. So that's kind of the same situation that we're in right now. And we can look, 1990, it went up to 383, but in that 10 years, it dropped down to 279. Well, but look in the next 10 years. So it dropped almost 100, over a little bit over $100 in this 10 years. It went up $1,000 in this 10 years. That's huge, huge increase. Now, all the times that I've been teaching this class, so January 29th, I taught this class and I pulled the gold price that day, $1,571. May 22nd, 2020, 1657. So it went up $80 in 4 months. February 11th this year, it was $18.33 an ounce. So it's gone up $180 approximately. And then today, so this was as of May, wasn't as of the 25th, it was last Thursday. So it was $18.83. So it's gone up $50 since February 11th. So $50. So if we look at that, gold has increased 675% in the last 21 years. 675% is huge. If you watch BattleBots, they have a bot named Huge, and everybody's like, huge. So 675% is huge. Huge amount of increase. So I bought a gold necklace in about 2008, just a typical 18-inch gold necklace, white gold necklace, and it cost me about, I think it was $150. Now it would cost me probably about $800 for the same necklace. So in 10 years, it's gone up a ton because gold prices have increased. So why did these gold prices increase so much? Or let's go back to much of the gold is gone. So why do they continue to mine? They continue to mine because gold is worth so much money. Okay, the price of gold is high enough to outweigh the cost of taking it out of the ground. So we wouldn't be up there just mining to mine. Okay, we want to make money. That's the whole purpose, is to make money. Well, right now the price is so high that mining something that, if there isn't a lot of gold, it's okay because we're still making enough to outweigh the cost of getting it out. Now, back in the day, they were able to take gold nuggets out, so big pieces of gold, even littler pieces, but their technology was so poor. I mean, look, pickaxes, shovels, and old sluice boxes. They could only pull the nuggets out. So all the fine gold that went through there, so all the little pieces of gold, they couldn't catch. Well, now that's what's left, are these little pieces of gold, or almost like dust. It's just tiny, tiny pieces of gold. They rarely find nuggets. So that's what they're mining now. So technology has increased. For one, they have the excavators that can dig very deep. Okay, so they can go 300 meters down. They have a way to get through the permafrost. We talked about that before. Permafrost is frozen ground, so they couldn't get through frozen ground before. And they've got huge sluice boxes and rigging to get through all the dirt. So they're able to go through 100 yards a day versus they were able to get through, they couldn't even get through a yard a day before. So that is a huge thing. And to get that fine gold that doesn't weigh as much and you need a good amount to equal a nugget, now we're able to do that. So technology has increased to help pull that gold out. Okay, so let's get down to it. Okay, 670% increase tells us the supply of gold is low because now they can't get big nuggets out, they can only get fine gold out. It's getting harder to find. There just isn't as much out there. But the demand is high. Okay, we all want gold. Think of all our population's increasing. Think of all those people that are getting married that want gold rings or gold everything. Industrial wise, we use gold in all our circuit boards because it conducts really well, or it works really well in circuit boards. We're using it for all kinds of different things that we didn't use it for before. We used it for jewelry before, but now we're using it for all kinds of industrial uses. So that equals a price increase, a huge price increase. So as long as the supply stays low, which it's going to, we aren't going to go out and find huge new supplies of gold. The demand is going to stay high. Okay, unless we all decide we don't want gold anymore. We've changed to something, steel. But steel doesn't work the same as gold. So supply is going to stay low, the demand is going to stay high. So that's going to continue to cause price increases, especially with inflation going up. The price goes up because of inflation, but the price is going to keep increasing. So moral to that story is buy gold because it's going to keep going up in price. Okay, so that's it for June 26th, or June, I wish it was June 26th, May 25th, and I will see you on Thursday, May 27th. Okay, bye.